Let's talk about Ultron and my thoughts on the reworks for Jeff and Rocket. We're going to do a smithing session. For anyone who's brand new to smithing sessions, basically we're here, we're talking about stuff. I don't have a script. I'm just kind of going off of what I'm thinking about some of the stuff that is coming up. I do have access to the early access to 2.5, and I wanted to wait until I had this access before I made a video, mostly because I wanted to really evaluate what Ultron was. I saw some video of it, but very minimal. I was trying to make it so that when I saw it, it was my own reaction, not like taking someone else's like take on the thing. So that way I could give like my raw thoughts on the idea. I've started to try to do the smithing sessions live as well, so that way I can interact with the chat too. So that way, you know, if you guys want to bring up some points, we can kind of talk about it and all works itself into the video. All this stuff goes up on YouTube, and for a majority of the time, this is where people are going to be watching it. So let's talk about Ultron real quick. Ultron, in my eyes, from me like testing him out and playing him for a little bit, he is more akin to a DPS that also can heal than a support character that also does DPS. Right now, the only healing ability without a team up that I have is my drone that I can put out here, right? I have a little shield thing that I can put out too, but I don't really count that as a healing ability. It's just, it's shields. Aside from that, I also have my ultimate, which does a lot of healing, and it does an okay amount of damage, right? It's just big kind of bursts in general, right? It's very okay, but ultimately, right, you are like a DPS character that has some type of support for your team, right? The big difference between that and something like an Adam Warlock here, yeah, I do a lot of damage, but I have things that feed into my healing. For instance, right, if I am trying to turn this off real quick, if I heal up my team, right, and if I want to get my heals back, then I can do some damage to get my heals back quicker, right? It makes it so that it incentivizes you to be able to do good damage so that you can keep your heals up, right? And you don't really get that with Ultron. Ultron is like, hey, we're going to give you this drone thing that can heal up your team, but ultimately you don't even have to worry about it. Like, you throw it on someone and then you don't really have to even think about it. You can just go and like do your own thing. This, you have to manage your resources, keep your teammates up, and also deal damage along the way in order for you to be able to continue doing good things with the character. He also has multiple forms of being able to keep your teammates up, which in my opinion makes him a proper offensive support. That's where this guy differs. Like, I can do this, but ultimately, like, I'm not doing this and then also doing some things to like increase the healing of the drone or do anything like that. I'm dead ass just putting it on my homies, and then I'm just going back here and doing my own thing. It's just straight up offense. Talking with the community about it is that a lot of people are not understanding the difference between just having an offensive character that has like slight support abilities versus a character that is an offensive support, right? Going back to like earlier forms of Rocket, I used to be able to just like pop out some heal orbs right here, right? So like now I have to hit the target if I really want to be able to heal them. But I used to be able to pop out a couple orbs and then also do some damage to be able to help out my team. But there was an active element to that, right? It's not like I'm just like putting an orb there for everybody. Like, I can't just set an orb on the ground there and let everybody heal up from it while I'm doing this stuff. I have to constantly be healing my team while also doing damage, right? And there's that level of offensive support side that I think is important that they completely stripped from this character. And I think there was an argument that was being made when it came to the Jeff changes as well, that it was like Rocket in the sense of it being an offensive support. However, I feel like the times that I saw people playing Jeff, it was very rarely in a support fashion. I very rarely saw this from Jeff players, where they would like heal up their team and then also deal some damage to the enemy, kind of like what you do with Rocket, right? Less of an offensive support character, still just more of an offensive character that also had some healing that they could give to their team. So the changes that they made to Jeff basically turned him into more of a defensive support. He still has some offensive capabilities, don't get me wrong, but ultimately they stripped a lot of what made him who he was, of being able to get in the back line as effectively, because of the amount that they restricted his survivability, how much they changed his heals, and how, most importantly, how they affected his right click, his like main damage ability. Instead of having the 20 shots that he had prior to, now he has just the 3. It does do a bit of a knockback, but I don't think it's honestly that substantial. And then his left click, if you hit every single shot of it, it does a total of 350 damage, right? So still like nothing too crazy. If you're combining it with the right click, maybe could do a decent amount. I think a lot of the questions I keep on getting on these videos is, do I think Jeff is cooked? I don't think he is. I think he's going to be fine. I just think that his like play style is going to be drastically different than what his play style was before. They are incentivizing you to be here with your team like this and healing them while also hitting the enemy. Like, this is the type of play style that they want Jeff players to have, as opposed to what he was before, right? And I don't know if that's community driven. I don't know if that's them driving that factor, but that is what they are wanting. And it's very similar to what they did with Rocket, right? In that same kind of fashion. Rocket used to be that character that you would keep your team healed up, but ultimately you'd hop in the back line to be able to do some decent damage, be able to get right back out again, but you're able to keep your team up the entire time, right? Now, what they're incentivizing is that you're basically just heal bot. Like, realistically, your damage from range is not very high, especially with the projectile speed that you have. So what you're trying to do is you're just trying to heal your team up until you get your ultimate. And then as soon as you get your ultimate, that's when you can basically like send an orb to your team, but then go in and start doing some damage. Because that's pretty much the only way that you're going to really wind up being effective offensively with Rocket now. I think one of the problems that I'm running into right now with the way Rivals are approaching their changes to these characters is it doesn't feel like they're changing the characters based on people who play these characters, right? I think that they have like they had an idea in mind of what they wanted to do with these characters, and the community complained about the way that people were playing the characters because it wasn't exactly what they like. It didn't fit into a cookie cutter situation, right? So if you take a look at other characters in the support class, especially defensive wise, right? You have characters like Luna Snow. Luna Snow you're not going to see in the back line here, right? Because she basically has no getaway. Yeah, she does have a freeze or anything, but if you catch a Luna Snow out, she's just gone for. She's absolutely done for, right? So typically with Luna, you want to play her back here. And they emphasize that quite a bit, where you're able to stay with your team here. If they start pushing up or anything like starts pushing you, you can freeze them real quick. You can also heal your team pretty effectively with your with your shift, and it keeps you in this kind of frontline state with Luna, which is great because as soon as you get your ultimate as well, then you're right here with your team, instantly ready to pop it and support them in this fashion, right? This character was made to be in this spot, in this position, and it shows with the way that she was designed. Same thing when it comes to a lot of these other characters. When it comes to Cloak and Dagger, like the range that you're able to keep your teammates up here whenever you're putting down your bubble on the ground, right? Like you're able to play in this with your teammates here, right? Even the range that you have with her damaging ability here, like you're able to push up with the team because of being able to like do this type of work here, right? However, you really don't want to play her in a position that's going to put her behind the enemy team here, right? So these guys have these play styles to be able to play with the team. Same thing when it comes to Sue. You're not going to be in the back line doing a whole lot. Her damage does not support it. And her shield and everything that you use to be able to help out your team is also something that you're wanting to stick around because it also gives heals, right? So very similar in this fashion, you're wanting to stick behind your team to be able to keep on healing them while also dealing damage to the enemy, right? It feels like what they tried to do is make that happen for characters like Rocket and Jeff. It feels like they're taking these people that were designed positionally to be in the backline, right? Just because you're an offensive support does not mean that you have to be in the enemy backline. If you have a character like Adam, for instance, you don't want to be in the backline. You have no way to be able to get out, no way to be able to actually effectively keep yourself alive, right? Being offensive does not instantly mean that you want to be in the backline doing damage, right? The characters that you could do that with, though, in Jeff and Rocket, they completely took out their positional advantage, right? Which puts him in a really awkward spot. I think that they did a lot more changes with Jeff than they did with Rocket as far as the way that his kit works. And I think that's also part of the issue that I'm having with the new changes with Rocket, right? With Jeff, ultimately, a lot of the things are modified in a way that benefits this playstyle more, right? So when it comes to the bubble, yeah, it's a heal over time, but you're ultimately doing a lot more heal over time as well, right? It doesn't knock back, but you're really not trying to shoot your bubbles out there. You're trying to shoot your bubbles onto your teammates to be able to help enhance them, right? It's supposed to be a boost for your teammates, not an offensive tool. And they instead replace that with the right click, which is going to be able to give you that burst and that knockback, right? So they took these things into account. When it comes to Rocket, they didn't really take a lot of that into account. They're like, okay, well, instead of having it just do AoE stuff, we're going to have it do it so that if it hits the target, that's when you're really going to see the heals, right? The problem with that is that you still run into the issue where if Rocket gets even a little bit of damage and you're back here trying to heal your teammates that are about to go down, you're not only having to track the orb speed itself and the speed of your teammates, you're having to track the fact that it's going to slow down on you as well. So it feels like they just didn't take these things into account whenever you're playing this character. Also, by nerfing his dash, you're not even able to be up in people's face here, because ultimately if they start diving onto you and you start trying to dash away, you're not going to go nearly as far. People rarely play walls in this game. I have no idea why, but they rarely play walls in this game, which is really the only way you can move around effectively with Rocket. And this is the whole tie back thing here, right? This is why I think that Rocket fundamentally is a different character than Jeff for being an offensive support, because it really comes down to what is it that they're doing for the team. Rocket is an offensive support. Adam was an offensive support. Jeff, he leaned more into the offensive side from what I saw, right? Primarily the way that I saw people playing this character was very offense forward. And then the actual support side, the healing or the using the bubbles to be able to speed boost or any of that. You got speed boost in the very beginning when you were trying to get to site, but very rarely any other time did I see that happen. Also, same thing with his ultimate. I very rarely saw Jeff ultimate in a way that was something like, oh, hey, my teammates are really low. Let me grab them real quick, heal them up to full health. In this case, now it also gives them bonus HP or bonus shields, right? I very rarely saw it used for that, right? Which is a super effective tool. You can completely stop the fight for a second to be able to help your teammates out, but it was never used in that fashion. It was always used offensively. And don't get me wrong, it's a great offensive ult. You can do some really crazy stuff that you can't do with other ults there, right? But it was definitely more offensive based than it was defensive based. And I don't necessarily have a problem with that, because they also released Ultron. And Ultron is very similar in that fashion, right? Yeah, you can use the ultimate to heal up your team, and it is super effective. Just like Jeff ult, it's super effective at keeping your team up. But how many people are going to do that when they can do this? How many people are going to do that when they're able to just instantly kill people? Well, all they got to do is pop a little heal drone on their homies and then do this stuff, right? He is so much more DPS focused than he is support focused. I don't want to get it mixed up with support and healing. I'm saying in general, the only things I can really do is put a drone on my people and then maybe give them a shield, but the shield basically instantly goes away. It is not that much of a shield, right? It's very lackluster in general, because ultimately what you're focused on is trying to be in here doing a whole bunch of stuff, and as soon as they see you, you can dash away, do all that type of shit, right? You're here to be a nuisance, more like a DPS than you are keeping your team up as a support. If they kept Jeff as he was, I feel like I wouldn't have as much of an issue with this, because Jeff ultimately filled that same role, if not maybe even a little bit less so, because at least here you can put a drone on someone and then go do your own thing. I didn't see that a whole lot with Jeff. Maybe I'd see some Jeffs leave some bubbles for their team, or shoot some bubbles out from a long distance. Maybe they'd be over here, and while they're fighting and doing some stuff, maybe they'd shoot some bubbles out for their teammates. But it still fulfilled that same role, right? That they completely eliminated off of Jeff. And I don't know if that was just to make it so that Ultron would be even more hype, where they're like, oh, well, why would I do this with Ultron when I could do it so much better with old Jeff? What do you guys think about that, though? I think that ultimately Jeff is not dead. I think that they just drastically changed his playstyle. With Rocket, they need to modify more things in order to be able to help him out, because the changes that they are doing to the character make no sense. They don't fit him whatsoever, and it feels like no one is actually playing Rocket like the correct way. To include the devs, it feels like the devs are not playing Rocket at all, because then they wouldn't make the changes that they're making, right? It completely goes against what play style he fits into, what role he fits into. And it feels like with Ultron, they effectively just made what Jeff was into this character, and then eliminated Jeff from the role that he had as a support with this character. What do you guys think? So I'm interested to see what you guys think about the points that I made here. If you agree with me, if it's a W take, L take, let me know. Obviously, a lot of this stuff we're not really going to know until we actually see it in the game and see it in live matches, because that's going to be the true test. I mean, you can do a whole lot of testing and a whole lot of theory crafting in the firing range, but ultimately the community dictates what is going to be made of these characters. That being said, I hope that you enjoyed watching this video. If you haven't, go check out the links in the bio. It lets you know when I go live on YouTube, Twitch, and TikTok. I hope to be able to see you guys in the next video, whether that's gameplay or another smithing session. If you guys have another idea of what you would like to see for a smithing session and hear me yap about, leave it on in the comments. I love reading it and understanding what you guys want me to talk about and what you want to see my insight on. I also love seeing what your insight is on the whole thing. That being said, I hope you had a wonderful time here. I will see you guys in the next video. Feel free to drop a subscribe if you guys enjoyed it. And until next time, continue exploring, Smiths.